Good morning from me. It's always the same story, as long as myself is concerned. We have too many slides, too many things in our slides, but still I'm going to give this presentation based mainly on free speech. So my advice is keep looking briefly at the slides, but my words are going to be more important on that very specific and very important issue. Now, the title is, and the topic is about civil-military relations, and then it's a European Union and strategic culture. Okay. First, I'm going to give an overview about civil-military relations, and then an analysis, short analysis, and then focusing on the European Union and its strategic or military culture in another sense. Now, civil-military relations are about, typically are about the relations between the state and the soldier. Now, soldier, whether it's a capital S or not, is the military force. The ambassador spoke before about the military, still capital M or not. The military is the military power and the military force. So if we're thinking civil-military relations in terms of the soldier and the state, is actually the military power, or actually who controls the military power and the military force, and on the other hand we have the state. Now, which is the state? State is the executive branch of the state, which is the government. So that's the one part of the topic. The other one is strategic culture, and especially strategic culture of the European Union. That's a very big story, that's a very big question. Before talking about European Union, I'd like to make this an alteration to this title about the strategic culture of the NATO. Does NATO have a strategic culture? Did ever try to build a strategic culture? No. Because NATO is a military alliance, so military alliances do not focus on that. They actually do not have any real point, any real interest in trying to modify or build and maintain, reserve a military culture for their member states. But as long as European Union is concerned, strategic culture has been since the emphasis of European Union on military defense and security issues has been a main issue and an important issue. Now, what is strategic culture? Strategic culture is the process, internal process of a state or an organization like European Union, which is a supranational organization. It's not an international organization, it's a supranational organization. So it's the process to manage and deploy military force. We have seen that military force being deployed, being managed in many ways through European Union's defense and security policy. The other part of strategic culture, as long as European Union is concerned, is about the external recognition or the effort to become externally recognized as a security actor, or as an actor, as a legitimate actor, and a strong actor, of course, in the military sphere. We have a small problem here, because as we are going to see then after in next minutes about the common defense and security policy of European Union, the concepts, the essence and policies concerning defense and security in the European Union are mixed. Are mixed in a non-proper way, in the sense that as long as civil-military relations and strategic culture of European Union are concerned, we have a mixture of military and civilian elements in all operations and missions of European Union. That's not typical. That's not what someone would expect from civil-military relations, civil-military cooperation in European Union, and on the other hand, as long as the strategic culture of a European Union is being built. Now, civil-military relations are, very briefly, are about the relations between the state and military professionals, which is the military. Very long analysis and very long focus on that. The first wave is about the typical division between the politics and the military, which is a very questionable still even today an issue. Then it's about 60s and 80s. There were a debate and an analysis and a study about the development of new economic and political theories. And then we had the involvement of the military in politics, which is the coup d'etat, the attempted and the successful ones. Then it's the democratization, which is the countries of post-communist Europe. That is a very difficult and very important issue, is how these democracies, which were not as state democracies before they get into European Union and NATO, are having actually these prerequisites for becoming members of these two organizations. And the last one is the civil-military relations issue in post-conflict areas. Still, it's the same question. How a state after a conflict, after a violent and long conflict, can become, in terms of civil-military relations, a reliable partner to become a member of these organizations. Now, I'm going to stay here in European Union mainly. So, talking about European strategic culture and about the effort, the attempt of European Union to become a military actor. Now, it's very typical and it's very common, though some are having some disputes on that. But European Union, from the beginning, when actually involved in defense and security issues, opted to be or to become a civilian actor. Now, that's a very interesting question. How can a European Union, which is a union, supranational organization, but a political union of 27 members, states, how can that union divide political and military force, which is political or civilian capabilities and military capabilities? Now, talking about strategic culture, we need, in European Union, in the case of European Union, we need to focus on four different themes. The first one is military capabilities. Now, we remember 1999, when that was the Kosovo campaign, when European Union actually involved, or actually tried to be involved in the military arena. It's actually discovered that military capabilities, strictly speaking, military capabilities were not the appropriate ones for European Union to become involved. So what did actually happen is that we called NATO, and actually NATO's military resources. So from that time, from 1999 in the Kosovo campaign, we actually started talking about the attempt of European Union to become strong in military terms, but on the other hand, the deficiencies and the difficulties of European Union to become such a strong military actor, if that was actually the willingness of European Union, which is still questionable. Now, the second theme is about missions and operations of European Union. Now, are missions and operations of European Union within common security and defense policy are legitimate? Second, are these reliable? And next one, is that an autonomous military action of the European Union? The question the answer is partially yes. But in terms of strategic culture, we need to be strict. So it's either you have a real strategic culture being built or not. The third one is integration, cooperation, and then integration. It's the advanced step. Now, so far the civil-military cooperation and integration within European Union has been an important one. In other terms, is actually European Union, when planning and implementing operations and missions, giving emphasis to the military side of its power or not? Still, again, the answer is partially yes, which still is not acceptable in terms of real real strategic culture being built. The last one is EU-NATO relations. In terms of strategic culture, on behalf of a certain non-supranational actor, is actually focusing on real and autonomous capabilities in order to be entitled to have a strategic culture its own. Now, from the beginning of common defense and security policy of the European Union, the reliance, NATO-EU relations, and then the reliance of European Union on NATO as long as military capabilities are concerned, are not demonstrating this issue again. So, CSDP factor, and then I'm going to give, concluding the emergence of a new CSDP military profession in contrast to the traditional military profession at a national level. So we have a contrast between national and supranational European or Brusselsized profession, which is the CSDP profession. Now, CSDP has 5 areas, which is the origins, which is the institutional basis of CSDP, which is still questionable even today. Second one is decision-making. Decision-making in European Union CSDP is trying to keep a balance between civilian structures and traditional civilian military civilian decision-making, and on the other hand, the military side of decision-making, which still a balanced structure is actually not telling us too much about an autonomous strategic culture of a European Union. Now, the third one is capabilities. I analyzed that, missions and operations, and then it's strategic culture. Now, what is the relationship between civil-military relations, not for a state but a supranational organization like European Union, and strategic culture are actually it's an interactive relation. The one actually is related and is actually influencing the other. The problem with the common security defense policy, going back to 1990s when first started to be built, is what I call the inclusion or the extension of common or European defense policy, which was transformed to European defense and security policy. Now, what does this security word and actual concept means? Now, that means that you don't actually want exclusively to rely or focusing on military force, which is the military or the defense or military operation, not missions. Mission is a softer concept, but actually is the demonstration of your willingness to rely on both. Now, if you rely on both, which is defense, hard power, hard military power, and then security, which is civilian, not operations, but civilian missions, then you have a clear, which is not bad, but it's a clear demonstration of a balanced strategic culture, which then is not a culture anymore. Now, there are some. 5
minutes.
What?
5 minutes.
5, okay. So there are some who have argued and actually written on European Union's political culture. Now that goes to the civilian aspects of the European Union. But in terms of clear, traditional, strategic culture, now European Union has actually, in my own view at least, has actually attempted to have a balanced approach to this culture, which is still being built on in terms of both civilian and military elements. Civilian military elements, civilian military capabilities, civilian military structures, and civilian and military operations at the end. Now, ESDP, a new military profession in the ESDP domain. The military, the capital M, or the personnel, has actually been involved in, before European Union's common foreign security policy being created, they have been involved in NATO stuff or NATO operations and missions. So actually they had not a strategic culture, but they had a vision, they had an experience working in Euro-Atlantic fora or Euro-Atlantic domain. Now, what actually happened after the creation of European security and defense policy, and especially the military and civilian structures at the European Union level in Brussels? This is what we call a peaceful invasion of national militaries into the European institutional and organizational construction. Now, that actually led to a cultural revolution, and a surprise as long as professionals are concerned, and then led to a remarkable shift, because they had been used to work in NATO, Euro-Atlantic fora and structures, and then find themselves in a real surprise where they have to keep thinking and keep working, that's a working conditions now, working on both Euro-Atlantic and European terms. And as I said before, the NATO has never actually opted to have or to build or to modify a strategic culture, because there was not an objective. But in terms of the European Union, these national professionals found themselves in the position that they now need to keep working. So that was an extended environment for them, but not at a national regional level or very regional level, as long as member states are concerned, but now at the central level, or a European Union level, or a Brussels level, as we call it, and now they have to divide themselves into 3 different levels: national, European, and national, Euro-Atlantic, and now European level, as long as their profession is being exercised, as long as their thinking is being changed, and as long, which is the most important, as long as military operations or other types of missions are concerned to be exercised. Thank you.